Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to order. We would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash, unceded First Nation, and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. We also recognize the Métis, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. We extend our gratitude to all Anishinaabe and Métis people and their descendants, past, present, and future, who continue to care for and inhabit these lands and tend these waters. The purpose of this meeting today is to review applications for consent or minor variances as they apply to certain lands within the municipality of Meaford. Before we start, I'd like to introduce members of this committee. On my far left, Mr. Peter Tobble. To my far right, Mr. David Cramp, Mr. Ed Ormsby, Mr. Cam Hall, who's the vice chair, and myself, Terry Williams. The municipal planning staff in attendance today: Denise McCarl, Manager of Planning Services, Helena Fascinato, Planner, Meredith Gillespie, Planner, and Gabe Pucci, Development Services Assistant and Secretary Treasurer for this committee. This committee is legally required to make decisions that conform to the Provincial Planning Act, as well as the existing county and local official plans. Based on these documents, the municipal planning staff have prepared detailed reports and recommendations for this committee. The municipality encourages the community to share their thoughts about proposed applications. For those who may be joining us remotely via Zoom or are here in person, you will have the opportunity to speak should you wish to do so. I will call upon you at the appropriate time. Your constructive comments to this committee will help us to make informed decisions on these applications. It is also appropriate to ask any questions you may have as it relates to these applications. Should they wish to do so, the applicant or their representatives will have the opportunity to respond to any comments or questions raised by either the committee members or the public. Anyone wishing to receive notice of the decisions today are asked to do so via email through planning@meaford.ca or by phone 519-538-1060, extension 1120. Gabe, is there any changes to the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not any change to the agenda. Thank you.
Have the committee members all had the opportunity to review the minutes of our last meeting? Are there any requests for changes? May I have a motion to accept the minutes then? Cam and Ed, all in favor? Thank you. Before we step into the public meetings, I must ask the members of the committee if there are any reasons related to a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof that would preclude you from making an unbiased decision on any of these files today. No. Seeing none, we will proceed. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for consent under Section 45 of the Planning Act for the lands known as 137079 Gray Road 12. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days notice as prescribed in the Planning Act. Gabe, can you please confirm the public notice has provided at least 14 days prior to this meeting? And if so, can you summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The notice was given on November 23rd, 2023, giving more than the required 14 days notice. Regarding the application, the applicant is requesting to sever two lots from an existing 41.24 hectare farm parcel. Each lot will be 1.33 hectares in size, and each will have 91 meters of frontage on Gray Road 12. The retained parcel would be 35.57 hectares in size with 122 meters of frontage on Gray Road 12. The lands would be serviced by private well and septic system and have access on Gray Road 12, an open and maintained municipal road. The lands are designated rural and hazard lands in the Meaford official plan. Regarding comments, with generally no concern or objection were received by Ambridge, Hydro One, and Gray County. However, GSCA recommends that the consent for GSA Gray Sobel Conservation Authority recommends that the consent for Lot 1 be deferred pending additional investigative work to define the developable area of the lot. This work would include the provision of a grading plan to the GSCA and, if necessary, the preparation of a floodplain study. The GSCA has no concern with Lot 2. Thank you.
Elena, are there any other additional comments on this file?
Hello, there we go. Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So there will be two separate decisions for each of the severances. So I'll go through each of them separately and then outline the recommended conditions. So for severance B15 2023, which is Lot 1, I just wanted to touch on the comments received from Gray Sobel Conservation Authority. So they have indicated that a significant portion of the front of the property is low-lying and may be wet. And they would like the applicant to do more investigative work to determine the building envelope for the property. So I understand that the applicant has been in touch with Gray Sobel following receipt of the comments and will be able to speak to it a little bit further as well. Planning staff has taken these comments into consideration with the other comments received for the file. I will note that our building department has indicated that there is room for septic on the property, provided that it meets the clearance requirements for the Ontario Building Code and other required setbacks. The county's ecologist has indicated that it is their opinion that the impact to natural heritage features will be negligible and no environmental impact study is required, and that a 30-meter setback from the watercourse at the north end of the property is required. And the county has also noted that as a condition of approval, road widening of 17 feet or 5.18 meters shall be conveyed to the county along the frontage of Gray Road 12, where the right-of-way is less than 30 meters wide and will be legally conveyed at the expense of the applicant, and that an entrance permit is required through the county. So all of these comments, along with the MDS setback requirements, have been taken into account to determine if a building envelope is feasible on the lands. And I will note that the low-lying area is at the front of the lot, so it's in close proximity to Gray Road 12, and there are setbacks from the road for any development that occurs. Further, any lot with regulated areas. So at the time of building permit, so if someone does apply for a building permit on these lands, that will be flagged and they will require a development permit from Gray Sobel at that time. Excuse me. And given the low-lying areas outside of Gray Sobel regulated lands, and that building and county comments indicate that there is potential for a building envelope, staff are recommending approval of severance B15 2023 with the following conditions. One, that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial and otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued. 2, payment of cash in lieu of parking dedication for the severed lands. 3, confirmation of availability of an entrance permit from the road authority shall be provided prior to final approval. 4, that written confirmation is received from the County of Gray that the required road widening has been completed to the satisfaction of the County of Gray. And 5, that the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. So that is for severance B15 2023. And for severance B16 2023. Positive comments have been received from the agencies, and county comments regarding road widening and an entrance permit have been reflected in the condition of consent for application B16 2023. And the conditions for that one will be the same as B15 2023. And otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Have the members of the committee had an opportunity to review the application through a site visit or reading of the documents? And do you have any questions for the planning staff at this time? Ed?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just clarifying the road widening, Helena, can you the applicant is responsible for the road widening? Can you just clarify for that a little bit for me, please? Just.
Yep, so the applicant will have to satisfy that that road widening is met, and the county has provided comments that indicate what it is that they require from them.
So before a permit could be issued,
Before the consent,
right?
So to satisfy the conditions of consent, before final approval of the consent, they'll need to satisfy the road widening requirements of the county.
Okay, and I have a question for Ron, probably whenever you.
In a minute.
Thank you.
Ron, I know you wanted to speak on that point. If you please can step. No, can you just answer the one question, please?
I guess the only thing. Exactly sure if it's road widening, just the allowance itself. There's actually not any physical. I thought that's what was going through maybe through your head. Yeah. Mr. Lubinsky is not being asked to get out his couple $100,000 and pay for the road to be widened in that spot. Yes.
Are there any other questions from the committee members? David?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Helena, can the laneway for lot 1 go in on the Gray Sauble regulated area? And my reasoning for that is when they have this 100 meters that they require, if that laneway was required to move off of their regulated area, do we get into trouble with the 100 meters between the two laneways?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair. So the entrance needs to be 100 meters from the current entrance to the property, and that leaves them with roughly 30 meters that they have. And that is a condition that the county will need. An entrance permit is required through the county prior to final approval of the consent. So the county will need to be satisfied that that 100-meter separation between entrances is met. Yeah.
I think the question through you, Mr. Chair, I think just yes, a driveway can be in a regulated area. So it would just mean that they need that second permit from the Gray Sauble Conservation Authority for the driveway. There's lots of driveways that are unregulated. It doesn't, I'm not saying they would give everybody approval. It'll depend on that particular driveway, but they can be on regulated lands.
I would think, given the fact that the two properties are essentially 180 meters, that they could accommodate the 100 meters separate between the two driveways and still avoid that section if necessary. Are there any additional questions, comments? Would the applicant or Mr. Davidson wish to comment further?
Yes, and before I forget, let me do this backwards. I did speak with the author of the letter from Gray Sauble yesterday about that very issue. And I said, is there any problem putting a driveway through any portion of this property? And they said, no, there's not going to be an issue putting a driveway through a regulated area if it has to go through a regulated area. To back up, hi, I'm Ron Davidson. I'm the planning consultant working on this project on behalf of Ron and his wife, Jillian Levinsky. As you heard through Helena, the idea is to sever off a couple of lots. The county official plan and your official plan here in Meaford read the same way with respect to rural severances. Not allowed in the agricultural designation, but in the rural area, up to so many lots per original 100 acres, or in the case of original 200 acres, you can create up to 5 lots. So 5 lots plus the 6th retained. Right now, the lot described as Lot 2 Concession 8 in former St. Vincent sits at 4 lots. So Ron has taken the 5th and 6th, so there'll be no more severances after this. Yeah, so it complies with the lot. So we call that the lot density policy. There's MDS that has to be taken into consideration, which is setback from barns. There's no issue there. There's a few other things. I won't bore you with the details. But long story short, it does conform with your official plan, or we wouldn't be standing here today. Just quickly regarding the Conservation Authority, I did have a sort of a lengthier conversation with Mr. Stredwick yesterday as a result of Helena passing on along their comments. I think maybe Clint was a little bit quick to jump the gun in writing that letter, because when I called him, I said, there's lots of room on this property to build on lot 1. He said, oh, I know that. And I said, but nobody would want to build at the front of the property. It's lower lying. And besides, this is all within a regulated area. And he said, well, some of it's not. So, well, okay, let's apply common sense here. Nobody's going to build at the front of the property. It goes up. You're going to have a much nicer view. And besides, who wants to build in a lower lying area? And on that note, he just basically said, yeah, you're right. So I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but that was the discussion with Clint. So he a little bit not understand why he put that in writing so quickly the way he did, but he did. But long story short, the development will be taking place at the back of the property because it'll be a nicer view up there. That's it. Thank you.
I have a question based on GSE's comments. I would hate to put a position in that says the committee potentially grant the severance, and then there not be enough to put in a building, and you would be unable to change the lot size because the severance has already been granted. Would there be any consideration of deferring the decision on lot 1 until such time as you have something in writing from GSC that would kind of agree with what they proposed or they told you verbally?
Yeah, I guess that's real. Respectfully, that's a question I guess you'll have to ask yourselves with the assistance of staff. I mean, for what it's worth, I'm satisfied. We're talking about a 3+ acre size lot. There's lots of room there. I walked it and drove it with Ron in his 4-wheeler. Lots of space for it. I have no concerns there. If you did grant it and for some reason something happened, you do have the opportunity. You can change conditions of consent. You do have the ability, I guess, to sort of, if we came back and said, well, can we do something a little bit different here? You'd probably have an additional fee for us. But I mean, that is something that can be done. And maybe, Mr. Chair, maybe you just ask that question to your 3 planners here, their thoughts on that. Mine again is, I don't think it's necessary, but I'm not the decision maker here.
Denise, would you like to comment?
So we did talk about a couple of things. I mean, one option would be to add a condition to just say that it's you grant provisional consent subject to final confirmation with the GSCA. I mean, because they don't regulate this section of the property that we're talking about, it's a little bit of it's a tough one because they actually don't have authority over those lands. So do you know what I'm saying? If it was about the regulated portion or EP area, for example, then they would. So it puts it in a tough spot. But we talked about adding a potential condition that would give everyone a level of comfort that you can just move forward. I wouldn't suggest that we would recommend deferral on this, just because then we have to come back to a whole other meeting on it. If it's just to get that that confirmation. And I guess we just need to be really clear with the conditions asking, because if it's asking for the GSCA to sign off that they're fine, I don't know. I think we just need to be really clear about what they're fine about. Like if they're have no concerns related to that front portion, if they were just like mentioning that it's low lying in their letter. We do have this occasionally where someone writes something in the letter that they didn't intend to mean that they had direct control over that portion of land. So I'm not really sure what the actual wordsmithing would be, but that could be an option, is to add a condition, an extra condition in there that we can deal with on the back end, meaning between the applicant's team and us and the GSCA to come up with a solution that would satisfy that comment that they made. So that's the one option that we kind of chatted about it yesterday. An easier one than deferring and coming back with more information, just because that adds quite a bit of time and costs for everybody involved.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just a quick question. So if we don't put that condition in, or if we don't go down that path, the risk is purely with the applicant at this point in time. If they do run into problems, and they have to proceed and pay any extra costs associated with that.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I think the answer would be yes. I think if we were concerned as staff, hey, it's only, there are some applications we've had where they're really trying to go to the very smallest size possible. So they're maybe trying to do a half a hectare or something like that. But then there's also constraints, which is a challenge. If it's just over an acre, half a hectare, and there's nothing on it, might be fine. So because we have some of those other boxes checked, septic will fit. Septic can be in this lower lying area if it had to be, because it's not a regulated area. So it's not excluded from the building envelope, if you will. And the other risk is always that if someone wants a lot, they want to buy a lot in the rural area, that they have to anywhere, really, they have to be satisfied that their home that they want to build fits. So this lot may not fit a 40,000 square foot home with 15 bedrooms, but it might fit a 3-bedroom house, 2,000 square feet. Do you know what I mean? So, because the septic will change depending on all that. So those folks will have to satisfy themselves that they're okay. So I think most of the risk would be on the purchaser to make sure that this lot meets their needs.
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this question's for Ron. Ron, is any consideration been given, and maybe you've already answered it, with putting both lots on the one side? Or is there not enough distance between the driveways? Like we would put both the lots on the south side versus putting one on each corner?
Mr. Chair,
Certainly.
I know we talked about that. I to be quite honest, can't remember the answer.
Fair enough. Can you come to the mic and state your name, please?
All right, then. So effectively, I spent 2 years developing the property back in 2002, 2003. And we ended up employing an engineer from Owen Sound to do a complete site survey for the entire property. Where I'm leading to is a driveway 1,700 feet long going up to the main facility, which is on the second berm. It's 1,700 feet, and we ended up building the driveway about twice as wide as what usually is, because we hold major horse shows once or twice a year, amongst leading shows for Canada. We've had people from the US come up and so on, be able to see the facility, liked it up here. The driveway, having the lots at the north and south end, the extreme corners, allows me to be able to have a couple 100 feet additional green space, my driveway, between the lots as well. So I wanted that good separation. The thing I wanted to mention too is that north lot, there is a berm that comes across from north to south, back about 200, about 150, 200 feet from the lot line. And it's got an elevation probably of about 25 feet. And that berm stretches about 250 feet. So it would be ideal to be able to put a septic, put your house on there, You've got like basically 2 acres, and then you look behind you, you've got why not equestrian?
Thank you.
Any questions?
No additional questions. Meredith, is there anybody online? No, thank you. Any final comments or questions? No. Gabe, can you please provide us with the suggested decision?
For you, Mr. Chair, in making the decision upon this application for consent, the Committee of Adjustment is satisfied that the proposed consent application is consistent with the intent and direction of the provincial policy statement, conforms with the County of Grey official plan and the Meaford official plan, and represents good planning. There are conditions related to this decision, and the first one is that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial and otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued. The second one, the payment of cash in lieu of parkland dedication for the several lands. Confirmation of availability of an entrance permit from the road authority shall be provided prior to final approval. The fourth one, that the written confirmation is received from the County of Grey that the required road widening has been completed to the satisfaction of the County of Grey. And the final one is that the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. And this was for B15 2023. You want me to read the one for B16 as well?
We'll vote separately.
Okay, yeah.
Is there any comments on suggested decision? May I have a motion then to accept? Okay, Cam, Peter, all those in favor? Motion is carried. If you'd read the next steps, please.
The next step, the applicant. Sorry, Mr. Chair. The applicant will receive an email with the decision and notice of appeal period. Also, the applicant can now take down the sign from the property. And this could be 15.
Okay, and let's go to B16.
The recommended decision for B16 2023 is in making the decision upon this application for consent. The Committee of Adjustment is satisfied that the proposed consent application is consistent with the intent and direction of the provincial policy statement, conforms with the County of Grey official plan and the Meaford official plan, and represents good planning. The conditions related to this decision are that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial and otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued. Payment of cash in lieu of parkland dedication for the several lands. Confirmation of availability of an entrance permit from the road authority shall be provided prior to final approval. That the written confirmation is received from the County of Grey that the required road widening has been completed to the satisfaction of the County of Grey. And the final one, that the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
May I have a motion to accept? Ed? Peter? Any comments, discussions? All in favor? That motion is carried. The next steps are the same on both of them. Yeah. Thank you.
Say that our objective too is to be able to provide natural protection for fish things are other projects. So when Henderson Haven did the interview, we ended up setting up the coast protection of the Moonlight Creeks for the region and the valley. Subsequently, adjacent properties were looked at. This was my favorite.
This one, sorry, there was an extra one, I think. I didn't give it to those people.
Yeah.
Thank you. You can see, yep. No worries. Yes, B15 and then the 16.
This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to consider an application for consent under Section 45 of the Planning Act for the lands known as 137-122 Gray Road 12. The requirement to hold this meeting must be that there is at least 14 days notice as prescribed in the Planning Act. Gabe, can you please confirm that the public notice has provided at least 14 days notice of this meeting, and then summarize the application and provide us with any comments?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. The notice was given on November 23rd, 2023, giving more than the required 14 days notice. The applicant is requesting to sever two lots from an existing 41.24 hectare parcel. Each lot will be 0.81 hectares in size, and each will have 90 meters of frontage on Gray Road 12. The retained parcel would be 39.62 hectares in size with 124 meters of frontage on Gray Road 12. The lands would be serviced by private well and septic system and have access on Gray Road 12, an open and maintained municipal road. The lands are designated rural and hazard lands in the Meaford official plan. Comments with generally no concern or objection were received by Enbridge, Hydro One, and Gray County. However, Gray Sobel Conservation Authority had comments with recommendation, and their comments reads, based on our review, the proposed consent B17-2023 and B18-2023 are consistent with the PPS, provided development is to remain outside the regulated area. The Gray Sobel Conservation Authority has no concern with these two applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Elena, is there any additional comments on this file?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So these severance applications are fairly similar to the ones that we just discussed, where the applicant is looking to sever two lots from an existing parcel. And as Gabe mentioned, positive comments have been received from agencies, and the County Transportation Department has indicated that no road widening is required, and that an entrance permit is required for each of the lots. And that is reflected in the conditions that I'll just go through. And the conditions will be the same for severance B17 and B18. So the recommended conditions of consent are: 1, that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial or otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued. 2, payment of cash of parkland dedication for the severed lands. 3, confirmation of availability of an entrance permit from the road authority shall be provided prior to final approval. And 4, that the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the committee members? Is there any comments, Mr. Davidson? This file?
I don't think so. This is right across the street. The policies are all the identical situation the same. So I'll call it the short and say.
Fair enough. Is there anybody online? No. Any final comments or questions? Gabe, can you please give us the suggested decision and conditions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Regarding consent application B17-2023, making the decision upon this application for consent, the Committee of Adjustment is satisfied that the proposed consent application is consistent with the intent and direction of the provincial policy statement, conforms with the County of Gray official plan and the Meaford official plan, and represents good planning. The conditions are the following. The first one is that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial or otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued. The second one is the payment of cash in lieu of parkland dedication for the severed lands is provided. The third one is confirmation of availability of an entrance permit from the road authority shall be provided prior to final approval. And the fourth one is that the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. Thank you.
So the committee members realize we're looking at both and a combined vote here. Are there any additional questions, comments? If not, can I have a motion to accept the suggested decision? Cam? Peter? All in favor? That motion is carried. If you'd read the next steps, please.
Next step. Apologies. The next step is that the applicant will receive an email with the decision and notice of appeal period. Also, the applicant can now take down the sign from their property. We should repeat here as well.
We did it a combined vote. They're both the same. So thank you. The final public meeting, committee of adjustment today is to consider an application for a minor variance under section 45 of the Planning Act for the lands known as 1 Legion Road. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 10 days notice as prescribed in the Planning Act. Gabe, can you please confirm that the public notice was provided at least 10 days prior to this meeting? And if so, would you please summarize the application and provide us with any comments that have been received?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Notice was given on November 23rd, 2023, giving more than the required 10 days notice. This current minor variance application requests relief to allow a retaining wall to be constructed at a minimum of 0.54 meters from the property line, where section 9.190.3A of bylaw to 2021-71 requires no building or structure to be located closer to any slope or embankment that exceeds 33% or 3 to 1 than the toe bottom of existing slope or the applicable yard setback, whichever is greater. The proposed retaining wall is required to be 3 meters in height to protect the site from any potential slope failure and required to be in close proximity to the toe of the slope. The retaining wall will also be used as a visual screen. See the site sketch on okay, that as described in the site sketch. Sorry about that. And no comments with concern or communication were submitted by Grey County. Thank you very much.
Elaine, are there any additional comments in this file?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to highlight that a slope stability analysis was done in 2020. And it indicated at that time that portions of the slope were found to be unstable along that northern boundary. And structures such as retaining walls should be considered in conjunction with the proposed residential development. I will also note that the northern boundary of the site is irregular, and And the majority of the retaining wall does meet that required rear yard setback. So it is a portion of the wall that's requesting relief from the required yard setbacks. And we have not received updated comments from Grace Sauble Conservation Authority, but at the time of the slope stability analysis, they were supportive of those findings, and planning staff were supportive as well. So planning staff are recommending approval of this variance application with the condition of consent or condition reading that the proposed addition shall occur substantially in accordance with the site plan in the schedule and drawings provided with the application A16-2023. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and I understand that the applicant is joining via Zoom as well. Thank you.
Do the committee members have any questions?
No.
Through Mr. Chair, just a clarification, is this application part of the site plan approval process to come out of that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is just a minor variance for the retaining wall, and it's not considered to be part of the site plan control
Did it
application.
come out of discussions about the site plan approval process? That's all.
Yes, yes, it yes.
I have one question, because the site sketch, and without going through and actually measuring it, where would the wall be located relative to the bottom of that slope? Because there's obviously some brush in between, and
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, the applicant is online via Zoom, so I think she'd be best to speak to that.
okay, would you care to answer the question? And please identify yourself and
Certainly. Thank you, everyone. It is Genevieve Scott calling from Questa Planning and we're here on behalf of the client of Ron's Court to answer any questions the committee may have. As Helena did indicate, there are various different setbacks depending on the location on the site. So the setbacks from the slope vary, but I believe that the closest one is can everyone hear me now? I beg your pardon.
So we're just trying to understand why it's not.
With the applicant still on the line?
Yeah, she's available. It's just trying to figure out why it's not
Can we get audio?
Can anyone hear me? Hello?
there we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank
Okay, sorry about that. Some of it will be directly abutting the slope. So the intent is to essentially provide protection from the slope failure itself. And so some of the wall will actually come up from the lower parking levels itself and will form part of the superstructure of the building itself.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional questions for the applicant?
No.
Are there any members of the public on with questions? No. Any final comments, questions? Then Gabe, can you please give us the suggested decision and conditions of the variance?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommended decision is that the Committee of Adjustment grant minor variance application number A16-2023 to permit the development of the land in accordance with the site sketch. The condition is that the proposed additions shall occur substantially in accordance with the site plan in this schedule and drawings provided with the application A16-2023. Thank you.
May I have a motion then to accept Ed and Cam? Any comments or discussions? All in favor? That motion is carried. Gay, would you please read the suggested decision?
Step,
The next steps,
the
yeah.
applicant will receive an email with the decision and notice of appeal, period. Also, the applicant can take down the sign from their property. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next meeting is scheduled for January the 31st. Before I close the meeting, is there any additional comments or business we need to? This meeting is now officially closed then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.